episode of Formatting, Mechanics, and Style, and this is where the individual screenwriter teaches us how to read their screenplay. It's something we have to do every time we crack one of these open because everyone has a little flair, a little different style with their writing, and we'll look at this one. This is a very clean screenplay. You could tell that this was a Spec script. I mean, it's pretty much by the book. Little to no flair, no bold at all. Very little underlining, classic scene headings. There are 5 paragraphs in the whole screenplay that have 4 lines of text. Everything else is 3 lines or less, most of them about 2 lines. As you can imagine, that leads to tremendous white space on the page. It's very beautiful the way it's laid out, very comfortable to read. You never feel frustrated or like, oh, I don't really want to read this 14-line paragraph. None of that. It goes down the page vertically instead of horizontally. On 62, when things get heated up, it spreads out even more. You could see how this looks on the page. So I'm not saying this is the gold standard or how things should be, but it's obvious to me this was someone writing a Spec script saying, look at what I can do, and not trying to push any boundaries like a lot of the other screenplays that we've seen so far. I'm curious to see his next screenplay and see if it's like this or if it has a little more flair. I'm sure it's coming because this film's had some success. And again, like I said, I think he's a very good screenwriter. He intertwines song lyrics in the screenplay, and most of them do end up in the film. There are so many different ways to do this, and we've seen a lot of examples on the screenplays that we've broken down here on the Screenplay Lab. But the way he does it is a little different. He takes the actual lyrics and he buries them or interlaces them into the quick scenes to show you the progression and the speed of the scene to keep up with the song. Here on 105, 106, we look at Sam Cooke's song, which is You Were Made For Me, which is the perfect song for this screenplay. And you see there's the title and the artist, and then it goes into the next scene where it's the lake house bathroom later, and we get at the bottom of that, we get a verse. A fish was made to swim in the ocean. A boat was made to sail on the sea. Then we go to another scene, and then at the end of that one, the song continues. As sure as there are stars above, I know, you were made for me, you were made for me. So if you're writing specific music into your screenplays, this is a way you could do it. Hancock also likes to use the side comment, the little explainer, and the action lines. Last week we studied Ari Aster, and he is the master of this, whether you like it or not. He uses it a lot, where he tells you what every glance, whatever your thought means with a side comment. That's not what we're seeing here, and not to that extreme, and also not to that detail. But I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here on page 19, this is when Sergey is starting to get fresh with her, and he says, gorgeous view. And then the action line is he talking about her or the lake? Iris decides to give him the benefit of the doubt. He does this a dozen or more times in the screenplay, just breaking away from that normal voice of the action lines. A lot of other screenwriters probably would have just delivered that straight, where Sergey delivers his line, then maybe you give her a beat, or she stares at the lake so that you know she's thinking something, and then she says her line, which is, it is so gorgeous, brushing him off. The sound design is great in the screenplay. Again, he uses the classic, most commonly used way to show sounds and to make writing cinematic with the onomatopoeias. We've got the bangs and the whams and the cracks and the drips and pops and chunks and dings and buzzes and swooshes and whooshes. They're all in there close to 80 times in the screenplay. On 93 here, we can see bang 5 times. Another one of his unique style choices is when someone speaks off camera and the character doesn't know who it is but just hears a voice, then Hancock, uses a generic character tag. Show you what I'm talking about here on page 19. We have voice off screen saying Dobro Utro. Then it says, Iris, startled, quickly closes the knife. She puts it back into her pocket, turns around to see Sergey. And then the next time Sergey talks, it's not voice anymore. It is Sergey. So as I explain that, you're probably thinking, well, that makes a lot of sense. And it does make a lot of sense, but it is not something you see often in screenplays. It would usually just say Sergey off screen and still show her surprise and startle. But so this is a choice, formatting, mechanics, and style. And hey, I like it. It's a good choice. Speaking of how he handles foreign languages, because there are several in this screenplay, different languages, computer settings for Iris. Well, look at page 72. This is a really funny scene in the screenplay where Deputy Hendricks shows up. And remember, Iris, she can't lie. It's against her programming. So she's so smart because she turned her intelligence to 100 that she switched over to German, knowing that he wouldn't be able to speak German, or at least it was a good chance that he wouldn't be able to. So how do you show that in the screenplay? Well, there are a lot of ways to do it. We've seen many, many different ways as in all the screenplays we've broken down here. This is a unique way, though. So he actually puts the language, the German language, as a dialogue, and then underneath it he puts subtitle, colon, and then explains it. Yes, German. So this is what would be on the screen for the viewer. Subtitle, I speak English, yes, but my language setting is currently set to German. Then Deputy Hendricks goes, guess that's a big fat no then. He has no idea what she's saying. This screenplay has a lot of dry wit, sort of like Coen Brothers style. We'll talk more about that later, but this scene's a great example of that and the dialogue, so let's check it out.
Evening, ma'am.
Guten Abend. Was für ein schöner Abend, nicht wahr?
What is that you're speaking there? German?
Ja, Deutsch.
Okay, let's see. Sprechen the English?
Ja, ich spreche Englisch. Aber meine Spracheinstellung ist zurzeit auf Deutsch eingestellt, weil ich nicht lügen kann.
Guess that's a big fat no then. Oh, shit, just my luck. I am Deputy Hendricks. Hendricks is your name.
Iris.
Iris. Where are you coming from?
Mein Freund und ich haben in einem Haus am See hier an der Nähe übernachtet.
Wait, house? House over there? Oh, you're not talking about Sergei's place.
Ja, Sergei.
God damn. I should have known that Ruski was mixed up in some weird shit like this. How's old Sergei, by the way?
Ist tot. Ich habe ihn mit einem Taschenmesser in den Hals gestochen.
And now to direction on the page, where we look and see how this screenwriter decided to use or not use camera directions on the page. We've had a lot of that in the 16 other screenplays that we've broken down so far, and a lot of zooms and tights and wides and pans and all that stuff. Here, none of it. There's none of that in here. Again, this obvious that this was a Spec script and he was trying to toe the line. There are a few we sees, we are, we follows, which is also totally acceptable, but something that people like to debate. That's why I always bring it up and we can look at it. You have some screenplays where the we sees will be in the hundreds, and you'll have some where it'll be 0. Here, he does it 11 times. You can see on page 70 a couple of examples of that here. Also on page 85 is a couple of times where we use the us rather than the we, so turns to us, his back to us. Not only did Hancock write this as a Spec script, but the script that we have available to us to read online appears to be that, or maybe something just shortly after that. It's obviously not a shooting script, which a lot of times when we do get the screenplays online that we have access to in the general public, they're the finalized script, or someone has gone in after the finalized script and dressed it up a little bit, especially if it's a for your consideration script for award season. And this one's hard to find. You really have to dig deep to find this script, but it's very clean. It's a great example of how to write a Spec script, and I'm just really impressed with Hancock's writing. Going to take a quick break here just to say